Some properties are like lightning in a bottle for franchises. Sly Cooper proved that Sucker Punch had what it took to achieve exactly that. The gameplay was remarkable, the characters were astonishingly memorable, and the story was impactful. It was really difficult to imagine how they were going to follow it up, to see what would come next. I know the infamous trilogy was the next project, but today I want to review Ghost of Tsushima here in 2025 to identify how it stacks up several years later. Does it have that lightning in the bottle feel to it, or is it just alright? Grab some drinks and snacks because we're here for a while. I suppose I should start with the intro to the game if I want to do it justice. We open up in coastal Japan, Tsushima Island being invaded by the Mongols. I believe Ghost of Tsushima is based on real life history, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But anyway, the island is under siege by General Khotun Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan. He's this ruthless, unrelenting killer who takes no prisoners. Well, he takes no prisoners except for the leader of the samurai, Lord Shimura, who is the main character Jin Sakai's uncle. The intro here does an effective job at world building. It sets up who the antagonist is by giving him threatening lines. My favorite part is when he says to Lord Shimura, "You are a warrior, I can see that. You trained your whole life for this, and you have won battles that lesser men have called unwinnable, yes? But while you were sharpening your sword, do you know how I prepared for today? I learned. I know your language, your traditions, your beliefs, which villages to tame and which to burn." He establishes himself as this evil, immoral warlord that we can't wait to take down. Jin gets mortally wounded and wakes up in a nearby village where he discovers bandages and patches to his injuries. The Mongols show up and start indiscriminately killing, burning, and pillaging the place, and Jin finds all his gear. He also finds his savior, a thief named Yuna. Her brother Taka, who's a famous blacksmith, got captured sometime earlier by the Mongols during the invasion. They needed him to forge weapons for them, so Jin agreed to help Yuna rescue her brother because she saved his life. But he has a moral dilemma being associated with Yuna since she's a thief. I really like this because they establish a sense of conflict within Jin. He's a samurai, so that means that he has to follow strict codes and practices. We really see him struggle with if what he's doing is right, even though the Mongols are ruthless and they show no mercy. He doesn't want to stoop to their level, but we will eventually see that he builds a reputation further on into the story that ties into the name of the game. I always like it when games give you a reason to care about the protagonist. It's what makes the player invested the whole way through. Ghost of Tsushima does that. A great example is when Yuna tells Jin that Taka is the only family she has left, and Jin rebuttals that Lord Shimura is also his. It sets up Jin's priorities as he wants to rescue his uncle who was taken east to a place called Castle Kaneda before he saves Taka. In order to do that, he needs a horse. Every time I play this, I always pick the black horse and I always name them Kage. Let me know which one you choose, I'm curious. After the intro, we get to see this beautiful calligraphy animated art sequence that gives the game its own unique flair. It really distinguishes the stealth game from the rest. Assassin's Creed has a more grounded and historical layer to it, and Horizon Zero Dawn is more focused on the robots and enemy forces that you're up against. But Ghost of Tsushima is just different, especially because of the different cinematic settings that they have. I mean, even the dialogue options are different. I wanted to have the most Japanese experience, so I played it with English subtitles on my playthrough. It's just so fun and immersive. I'm sorry if I keep on glazing, but these are just my honest thoughts. We get to learn about Jin's origin story. He was born into a family of royalty, but his father was killed. He believed that he was the reason for it, but his uncle helped him come to terms with understanding that his dad's death wasn't his fault. The dynamic between Jin and Lord Shimura kind of reminded me of Uncle Iroh and Zuko's relationship. So y'all remember how I said that this game had its own type of style? Well, I said that for a reason. Most stealth games have an eagle eye ability or some kind of guidance gimmick, but Ghost of Tsushima does this with the wind, and they have a narrative explanation behind it. It was actually a genius concept. So the wind is linked to Jin's father's spirit and it guides him. So anytime you're on a mission and you get lost, the wind will aid you. Before we move on to Act 1, I want to highlight this game's music and presentation. The title card was spectacularly implemented with the dramatic music accompanying it. The instrument choice was top notch as well as the chord progression. If I were to give the intro a ranking, I would easily without a doubt say that it's a perfect 10 out of 10. The style is incredible, the characters are damn near perfect, the environment as well as the cinematography was A1, the antagonist was amazing and the gameplay was riveting. I genuinely don't have a single criticism with the intro. In the first act, we link up with Yuna's lifelong friend Kenji. He deals sake to the Mongols and in return they let him live. The plan that they devised was to hide out in Kenji's sake cart to break into a nearby village to save Taka. Yeah, it's not the greatest idea, but they get lucky because the Mongols don't search the convoy. On this mission, we get to see just how deranged the Mongols are. They line their victims up and execute them with arrows or kill them in some really brutal ways. Obviously, we can't get spotted or else they'll kill the prisoners, so we stick to the rooftops. Eventually, we find Taka and free him. Another thing I wanted to praise this game for is the impact that the Mongols have on the characters. Taka is traumatized when we find him, and we can see the fear displayed from him. It just illustrates how serious we need to take them, and Taka isn't the only person who was affected by the Mongols. There are tons of other slave camps throughout the game that we can liberate. The next few missions involve recruiting new members to help drive off the Mongols. I really enjoyed the issues that everybody struggled with. Lady Masako's family gets murked overnight, and the Straw Hat Ronin starve from the famine. Even Sensei Ishikawa, one of the most famous archers, has to deal with his student prodigy Tomoe, who was teaching the Mongols his archery techniques. Again, these problems indicate just how menacing the Mongols are. Kodan Khan has a conversation with Lord Shimura and is also really memorable. He tells Shimura to tell his people to stop resisting and they'll be free, but Shimura says that he won't allow his people to be relegated to slaves. It's an interesting way to look at the idea of freedom. It's ironic that the person who's causing harm is the one to tell their victim if they stop fighting back, he will stop oppressing them. It's just a little something I thought was food for thought in a way, and we've seen exactly that in World War II with the Holocaust. The Lady Masako situation was a little bit different because it was seemingly an inside job, but we learned later that a monk named Sogen ordered a hit on the clan. We tried to ask him who his boss was, but before we could get an answer, Lady Masako slaughters him. I can't say I blamed her though, considering what she went through. She had to bury her entire family one by one in a single night, so I get why she lost her cool. Jin's old friend Ryuzo seemingly makes a deal with Jin to help save Lord Shimura, and in return have the Straw Hats get paid generously for helping with the rescue. I say seemingly because Ryuzo ends up siding with Kodan Khan. The betrayal is a tough pill to swallow because Jin and Ryuzo were like brothers. They had history even. Ryuzo has got to be one of the most relatable characters. I took a little note at one of his conversations with Jin. They were talking about a sparring match that they had a couple of years before the Mongol invasion. Ryuzo was saying that Jin went too hard against him in their fight, but he had invited scouters and prospectors to spectate their fight. Ryuzo wanted to get noticed so he could become a samurai. It's really relatable to see other people doing big things, but you kind of just get casted aside just because they're slightly better than you, or because they were born into an affluent family. Jin tells Ryuzo that he should have talked to him sooner about their brawl, cause he could have hired him, but Ryuzo deflects the idea, saying that he didn't want the job out of pity, and that he wanted to prove himself. Instead, Ryuzo became a mercenary for the Straw Hats. That's another thing that I liked about this game. The exposition felt natural. It just felt like two homies talking about a petty rivalry. I've always hated it when games will try to force exposition down your throat and never give you a chance to actually chew it. I actually can't say that I blamed Ryuzo for betraying Jin. The Straw Hats were starving and desperate. The Mongol invasion only added to his stress and turmoil. It was a, if you can't beat them, join them moment for him, so I genuinely felt for him. So far, I've talked extensively about the story and the characters, so I feel it's necessary to bring up the side quests and the gameplay. The side missions reward you heavily for completing them. I'm gonna lump the little shrines, haiku spots, fox dens, and bamboo challenges in with the side missions as well. So my favorite side missions are the ones that unlock special abilities like the Dance of Wrath or the Heavenly Strike. These missions will unlock the most powerful moves in the game, so I strongly advise that you complete them. Not only that, but they're just really fun and rewarding to complete. As for the fox dens, they're really fun to complete as well. Scattered around the map you'll find this adorable little kitsune who will guide you to a memorial that you honor. Doing so will get you an extra charm spot. Now the charms are these perks that make Jin more powerful. Some of them will allow you to heal whenever you aren't in combat, or even grant you extra materials when you find them. Which brings me to how to obtain these charms. You can get charms by climbing up shrines. Throughout the map you'll find these torii gates that lead up a hill or a mountain. Upon scaling them you'll find shrines that will, as I've said, give you charms. I really enjoy climbing these because after you've climbed them, you'll have the choice to fast travel back to the start of them so you don't have to backtrack. They can also be pretty elaborate with their obstacles. The next minigame is the bamboo challenge. These are button inputs that require you to press your buttons fast in order to dice through all of the bamboo shoots in one swing. It's really satisfying once you finally cleared all of them because sometimes they expect you to be a god at them. Finally, we have the yellow birds that lead you to haiku spots or to the hot springs. These missions are sublime because they encourage freedom. You create your own little haiku by looking around some of the beautiful areas nearby. As a result, you'll obtain accessories. Oh yeah, and at the hot springs we get to see Jin's ass. Nah, I'm joking. We get to expand our maximum health, and Jin will reflect on his life. I really enjoyed these as well, but not as much as the others because sometimes the yellow birds will get stuck on mountains or on trees when I was trying to follow them. I know that this is kind of a nitpick, but I would have liked to have seen panda bears, snakes, cranes, and leopards. The wildlife in this game is still varied, and it's really enticing to interact with the animals, especially the yellow birds and the foxes, but I'm just saying that I wanted a few more species. The rewards for playing this game are also great. Now for the gameplay. There are 4 different sword stances that you unlock by defeating and observing the Mongol commanders. These are these health sponge guards who kinda remind me of the Iron Knuckle from Zelda Ocarina of Time. They hit like a truck, but it feels nice when you take them out. The game wants you to play it like a stealth-based action game, but if you want to go in swords blazing, just be wary that the guards may attempt to kill the prisoners, which you are required to protect in some of the missions. It's easy to tell if they're about to target the hostages because there will be a giant skull and bones over the enemy's head, so as long as you pay attention you'll be fine. I personally like the stealth factor, so I usually play it patiently and cool, but the choice is yours. That also brings me to the abilities and ghost weapons. As you level up you get skill points just like most other stealth games. Some will grant you enhancements to your abilities like being able to move faster while using focused hearing or being able to deflect arrows, while others will make you more adept at using the different sword stances. The 4 different sword stances are Stone Stance, which counters sword enemies, Water Stance, which counters shield enemies, Wind Stance, which counters spear enemies, and Moon Stance, which counters brutes. I definitely recommend you get all of the stances plus the deflect arrow ability as soon as possible, cause then if you get caught you can play rock paper scissors with the enemies. You'll be like, okay, now I got a sword guy on me, then I'll just pop Stone Stance. Oh, now I've got a spear guy on me, then let me hit him with that Wind Stance, and so on and so on. In the lower left hand corner you'll see these gold circles. These are your resolve meters. Using abilities will reduce them, but you can get them back by blocking sword strikes or just doing different techniques in general. You can also spend resolve to come back to life if you get killed, or just heal yourself. The aforementioned coming back to life move is my favorite one in the game because sometimes the game will think that I didn't hit the block button even though I clearly did. Each time you level up, your reputation will change, kinda like Infamous Second Son. Jin will get a new title all the way up until he becomes the Ghost of Tsushima. But leveling up doesn't only give you a new title, it also lets you pick up a new ghost move. Since I like the stealth aspect, I always choose the wind chime and the smoke bomb first. You have to pick up the kunai for the very first ability, but those two were the ones that I liked. However you want to go about it is up to you though. I think that's everything in terms of gameplay. Obviously there's more like having a horse or a bow and arrow, but I think I pretty much covered everything. After Jin and Yuna save Taka, Taka creates a grappling hook so that Jin can climb up the walls to Castle Kaneda. It's here that Ryuzo backstabs Jin. His boss fight was definitely a tricky one, and in the end he escapes slightly wounded. Jin rescues Lord Shimura, but Khan travels north to Lord Shimura's estate. It's here where we see Ryuzo have a change of heart about his betrayal. He has to torch a man alive in order to gain his trust with Khan. He has to smell burning flesh and hear the screams of agony just to get some food for his people. We cut back to Jin striking a conversation with his uncle. They talk about the methods he uses against the Mongols. I like seeing this debate between them both. In one of the first missions, Jin is conflicted about striking his enemies from the shadows, but later on in the story he embraces the reputation of the ghost. Lord Shimura agrees to provide Yuna and Taka a means to leaving Tsushima Island as long as she helps him take back his castle. But Yuna isn't there when Jin makes that deal with his uncle, but he lets her know about it and she doesn't take the news lightly. Nearby along the coast, a lighthouse gets taken over by the Mongols, so to send a message, Jin and Lord Shimura reclaim and light it to show Khan that they're not playing around. And a warrior monk named Norio informs Jin about some other monks who can help drive the Mongols away. That's it for Act 1. So what did I think? Well, the stakes are definitely there. The game is really fun to play, the visuals are immaculate. I liked the characters, the side quests and minigames are rewarding, and the music is fantastic. I would probably give it a solid 9 out of 10. Nobody likes a bully. Protecting those who can't protect themselves is the focal point behind Ghost of Tsushima. It's something I can truly get behind considering I used to get bullied. Standing up to your bullies gets demonstrated perfectly with the standoffs. How they work is, you have to stand your ground by holding the triangle button, and once you see your opponent make their first move, you strike them down. Speaking of standing up to your enemies, I want to bring up some dialogue that I thought was really deep in a side mission of all places. Jin and a family friend named Yuriko are reflecting on what true strength means and where it can be drawn from. Yuriko says, "Your father, Kazumasa, used to say that Lord Shimura was too concerned with that castle." And Jin says, "The strongest point on the island." And Yuriko says, "He equated strength with the huge, the immovable, like a mountain." And Jin says, "He had a point. Doubt and indecision have destroyed armies in the midst of battle. True leaders must stay rooted, stand firm." And Yuriko says, "But look at that waterfall. All that immovable rock yields to water. The strength we need is all around us." I love how insightful and meaningful the dialogue gets here. Yuriko ends up dying at the end of these quests, but it's the most peaceful death in the game because it's due to an illness, and Jin quotes what she said about strength when he buries her. Even if you're not the type to play these kind of games for the dialogue or the narration, you still get something out of it on the surface level because of the rewards you get from these missions. In this case, completing Yuriko's side mission, you'll receive a charm that gives you a 15% chance to poison enemies with your arrows. Moving on though, in Act 2, our goal is to take back Lord Shimura's estate. In order to do that, Jin has to try to enlist the help of the Yurikawa clan. The Yurikawa clan has bad blood with Lord Shimura because in the past, Lord Shimura stopped their rebellion, which we learn about in one of the side missions called The Spirit of Yurikawa's Vengeance. Taka finds out from the Yurikawa blacksmith that the archers from Yurikawa went missing, so we have a mission where we have to rescue them. I liked this mission because Taka has an arc where he gains the courage to fight back against the Mongols. The problem is that Yuna doesn't want to see Taka get hurt, so she has an argument with Jin for letting Taka fight. Keep this plot point in mind as it will be important later. It's pretty good character development from Yuna and Taka as well. Next, we get to play the best mission in the whole entire game, the Ghost of Yurikawa. It's a tower defense mission where you have to fight wave after wave of enemies, then you have to destroy the Mongol catapults. Finally, we get a boss fight with the Mongol commander where we unlock the most broken ability in the game, Ghost Stance. It's similar to the ultimate abilities from Infamous Second Son, where if you kill enough Mongols without taking damage, or if you slaughter the Mongol commanders, Jin will go into this like a rage mode where all the enemies run away from him and his damage output gets multiplied tenfold. The first time Jin went into the Ghost Dance was a sight to behold. He was pretty much unleashing all his anger and frustration out on the Mongols, which was a side of him that we never got to see up until this point. He's always had a firm grasp on his emotions and he's never really lashed out, and that's why I think that this was the best mission in the game. Moving on, Lord Shimura manages to contact samurai reinforcements on the mainland, and he leaves them with a letter, and in it contains instructions to make Jin heir to the Shimura family. Keep this plot point in mind as it will be important later. Yuna tells Jin that she plans to leave with Taka the following morning, but Jin tries to convince her to go with him to help eliminate Ryuzo and the Straw Hats. Yuna refuses to go, so Jin goes it alone, but Taka follows him. Jin tells Taka to go back to the camp, but Taka insists on helping by causing a distraction for Jin. Eventually, Jin finds Ryuzo, but they use the trope of the main character getting one shot and knocked out. When Jin comes to, he finds Taka tied up with him and the Khan shows up. He tells Jin basically the same thing he told Lord Shimura when he was captive, that if Jin stops resisting, he will let his people go from his rule. But Jin refuses, so as an act of anger, or maybe spite, Khan gives Jin's katana to Taka and orders Taka to kill Jin. Instead, Taka decides to attack Khan, resulting in his death. For some reason, Khan doesn't kill Jin even though he has him tied up, and he leaves. Yuna shows up looking for Taka, but instead she finds him dead. This was devastating to watch because in the end it was Taka's newfound courage that got him killed in the end. He could have tried to run away, but instead he thought it would be a good idea to try and be a hero. In the next and final mission, we raid Castle Shimura and try to defeat the Mongols once and for all. A lot happens in this segment, but I'll try and keep it brief. So Lord Shimura sees Jin killing the Mongols using poison darts and striking them when their backs are turned, but he doesn't approve of it. He tells Jin that that's not the Shogun way, which brings me to my next point. So I'm about to sound like a psychopath or a sociopath when I say this, but I want you guys to hear me out. I honestly took enjoyment out of killing, mutilating, bisecting, and dismantling all of the Mongols. It was fair retribution, what they were getting. I want you guys to remember that at the beginning of the game, one of the samurai went down to the beach to break the Mongol spirits to challenge them in a duel, and guess what Khan did to him? He poured fuel on him, threw a torch on his body, and then he decapitated him. The Mongols don't deserve a fair fight, so I honestly have to take Jin's side when it comes to his methods. Yuna also agreed that what Jin was doing was right. Lord Shimura orders his soldiers to breach through a bridge in order to storm the fortress, but the Mongols rigged explosives onto horse carriages and destroyed the bridge as well as most of the resistance. Jin confronts his uncle later for sacrificing the samurai, and his uncle brushes it off, and he slaps him in the face for it. So because the bridge is broken, we decide to take matters into our own hands and poison the Mongols' food supply. Afterwards, we run into Ryuzo and kill him for his betrayal. Lord Shimura sees Jin's underhanded tactics of poisoning the Mongols' food and gives Jin an ultimatum. Either tell everybody that Yuna was the one who influenced his actions, or embrace his mantle as the ghost, protecting Yuna, and become an enemy to the island. Jin picks the latter, but before he gets captured, he gives his weapons to Yuna and he tells her to hunt down Khan and get revenge for Taka. Not too long later, Yuna sends Kenji to deliver sake to Jin's prison guards so he could escape. Jin was hesitant to escape at first, but Kenji tells him that he heard the guards talking about sending him to the mainland to get put on trial anyway, so he escapes while the guards are drunk, but not without sacrifice. Kage ends up getting hit by some stray arrows and ends up dying from their wounds, effectively ending off Act 2. So what did I think about Act 2? Well, I thought Act 2 was great. The character growth with Yuna and Taka was nice. The argument on if what Jin was doing was right with Lord Shimura was amazing as well. And finally getting to kill Ryuzo was a treat. Act 2 also had some of the best missions in the entire game. My favorite was the Spirit of Yurikawa's Vengeance because you unlock the Dance of Wrath as a reward for completing it, and it's a pretty easy mission. The exposition about Jin's father was impressively executed, with that one mission with Yuriko, which was also rewarding to play since we unlocked the poison and hallucination darts, which will be important in the next act. Seeing how Yuna loses the only family she had left, but seeing her realize that she still has Jin around makes her decide to stay on the island, which was a really nice touch of character development. Ghost Dance was also introduced perfectly, and I just overall had a really great time playing this chapter. I give Act 2 a solid 9 out of 10. It's human nature to be scared of what you don't understand, to fear the unknown. When Jin first unlocked the poison darts, sometimes if the guards saw what happened to its victims, they would run away, terrified of the symptoms. But at the start of Act 3, the Mongols learned how to harness Jin's poison by infusing it into their arrows. The Mongols found the plants in the northern region of the game, and they kept a stash of it in a lighthouse along the coast. Khan planned to use the boats at the docks to transport the poison to the mainland and take over there. My favorite parts in this game are the sections where we have to survey the areas so that we can get a tactical advantage over the enemy. They demonstrate how strong of a tactician that Jin and Yuna are. The plan they devised to defeat Khan is to wait for the incoming hurricane while the Mongols are inside shelter, then sabotage their boats as well as the poison stash in the lighthouse. In order to do that, they still need help from Lord Shimura because they need all the help that they can get. At this point, Lady Masako and Ichikawa are still on Jin's side, even though he's considered a vigilante. I want to put into perspective just how complicated Jin and Lord Shimura's debate is. On one hand, Jin is doing the right thing by murdering and cutting down everybody who did harm to his home, which is why I still think he's a hero, even though the Mongols run in terror from him. But on the other hand, you can see Lord Shimura's point that Jin is no longer a samurai when he resorts to underhanded tactics. I don't agree with him, but he does have a point. The ghost is what brings hope to the innocent. He is the savior who is no longer shackled to the honorable code that Lord Shimura is a slave to. Jin says it best. We are at war. I'm doing what I must. And he's right. When Ghost of Yote comes out, the main character Atsu is going to be similar to Jin in a lot of different ways. What I'm saying is the concept of good and evil is more complicated than meets the eye, and Ghost of Tsushima tackles this idea perfectly. It doesn't surprise me considering it was made by the same developers behind the Sly Cooper trilogy. Before I played the final level, I upgraded the Sakai katana to the max, as well as Jin's father's armor. I completed some of the side missions and got a new horse which I named Kaze. Oh yeah, and I broke into Lord Shimura's estate and gave him a note which contained an invitation to the invasion of Port Izumi. Finally came the attack on Port Izumi. I gotta say, I did enjoy this mission except for the boss fight. The thing I didn't like about it was the fact that they used the same gimmick that a lot of games use, where they have the boss get their lackeys to come join the fight whenever their back's against the wall. It just makes the boss fight annoying. Everything else aside was phenomenal. From the music, the difficulty leading up to the Khan fight, and the cinematography. In the end, we decapitate Khan and set all his boats on fire. He says that he won't be forgotten, but that's far from the truth in my opinion. Khan didn't actually have any friends, or at least we didn't see him with any. And even if he did, the ghost likely killed them all. In the finale, Jin gets invited back to his childhood home, where Lord Shimura drops several bombshells on him. He tells him that the shogun disbanded the Sakai clan, and they branded Jin as a traitor. This part made my blood boil because we were the one who took out Khan. We were the one who stopped the Mongol invasion, but that was the thanks that we got. Lord Shimura also betrayed Jin by siding with the shogun, so because of that, I chose to kill him. He was no better than Ryuzo in a way. After we helped him, he turned on us, just like Ryuzo, so I thought it was necessary to kill Lord Shimura. Let me know in the comments if you think I was wrong for that. After that, we're pretty much finished with Act 3. All that's left to do is drive the Mongols out of Japan and help with Lady Masako and Sensei Ishikawa, if you haven't done so already. But with that being said, let's get to the final verdict. Ghost of Tsushima is a damn near perfect game. The characters are very complex and they go through trials and tribulations. Even the NPCs feel like they're truly a part of the world. You may find them tilling the soil, working in the fields, or even fixing the shingles on the rooftops. The settings are varied and they encapsulate Japan really well, from the marshes to the grasslands or even the cliff sides. The wildlife is interesting as well. The only criticism is that they should have added snakes, gators, and maybe panda bears. But other than that, what we got was still a solid variety. The visuals are breathtaking. Some of my favorites are lakes and beaches. What can I say? I'm a sucker for water. The plot was simple to follow, which is great for keeping the player intrigued, and the stakes were immaculate. The music was second to none, and I can't wait to hear how Ghost of Tsushima sounds. The gameplay was fun because it mostly lets you choose if you want to tackle missions quietly or quickly by rushing in. Only time you can't rush in is when the mission would have insta-fail parts if you were spotted, but those missions were few and far between. The premise of the Ghost was amazing as it gave the game its own unique flavor, plus it tied to the title, so it had a narrative purpose. The art style reminded me of Infamous Second Son, specifically when we had the calligraphy cutscenes with the storytellers of the mythic missions. There's always something to do in every part of the map, which gives the player freedom, even though the island is on lockdown. If you want to scale the various mountains to get to see beautiful landscapes, you could do it. If you want to liberate all the camps before continuing the main story, you could do it. And if you want to complete all the fox dens or bamboo strikes, you could do it, and so on and so on. My point is that there's something here for mostly everyone to enjoy. The only problem I had with the gameplay was that sometimes Jin wouldn't block sword swings even though I was mashing L1. But that's kind of a nitpick, or it could have just been a skill issue. Overall, I give Ghost of Tsushima a solid 9.9 out of 10. Hey, what's good y'all? Welcome to my outro. I hope y'all thought that I was spitting in this review. At the time of writing this, I have pre-ordered Ghost of Tsushima and I will be making a review on that, but don't expect it to be out soon. I have plans to upload one horror game for every day of October, plus I'm still trying to find a job. I know I sound like a broken record, so I'm sorry. I just want to say thank you all for the reception on my last Sucker Punch game reviews, and I might tackle Infamous after I finish a review on Ghost of Yote, but obviously that won't be for a while. Because I have to play Ghost of Yote before I can review it. As usual, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Until next time, peace.